The next topic is autonomous nervous system. In the previous class we have studied central nervous system as well as peripheral nervous system. Now we are going to study about autonomous nervous system, means which is going to act on itself. Just like I told you in the previous class that medulla oblongata will be involved in all the involuntary actions, right? So the whatever the system that makes the medulla oblongata to work is known as autonomous nervous system. The system that is present behind the medulla oblongata to make it function involuntary, just like heartbeat is not under our control, respiratory system is not under our control, so functions of kidneys, these are not under the control of our brain. So all the internal organs which are doing their function on its own will be coming under autonomous nervous system. That means there is no involvement of brain or spinal cord. So the medulla oblongata will be passing some instructions which will be involving in involuntary actions of some of the muscles which are present inside our body. Heartbeat. Heart is going to beat, that means ventricles and auricles, they are going to contract and relax, then they will be supplying the blood to all the parts. That functioning of heart, contracting and relaxing, that is not under the control of our brain. So that is under the control of medulla oblongata. So whatever the system that is making the medulla oblongata to function is known as autonomous nervous system. It is not under the control of our brain. There are few examples to explain this one. Whenever you enter into a dark room, initially moving from a brighter room into a darker room, within few seconds, just maybe few minutes, seconds to minutes, you won't be able to see anything in that room. As the time progresses means as the minutes go, after 2 minutes or 5 minutes, or depending upon the darkness, amount of darkness, after 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can see some small things in that darkness. That is mainly because your pupil will expand. The pupil gets expand and it gets adjusted to the darkness. And suddenly, in vice versa, that means whenever you are coming from darkness to the bright room, immediately your pupil gets contracted, so as to pass minimum amount of light. In the first case, whenever you are entering from a brighter room into a darker room, your pupil gets expanded so as to allow more light to pass into your eye and to form the image in your eye. And it takes much time. It is not under the control of your brain. You are not asking your eye to open the pupil and to contract, relax and contract. That means expand and reduce the size. That will be coming under autonomous nervous system. You are not asking your eye. Voluntarily you are not opening your eye. You will open your eye, but eyelids, but not your pupil to expand or to contract. Whenever you are going into a dark room, your pupil gets expanded. That is not under the control of your brain. Automatically it expands so as to allow more light to pass into it and to make the image to be formed in your brain. When you are moving from the dark room into a brighter room, the similar thing, the reverse thing happens. That is, the pupil gets contracted so as to allow little amount of light to pass into the pupil or eye, so that you can see the visibility of the thing according to the light that is being displayed. Okay, so this is not under the control of your brain. This is known as autonomous nervous system. This autonomous nervous system, the main thing which is present behind this autonomous nervous system is medulla oblongata. The last part of your brain, medulla oblongata, will be controlling the system that controls. This medulla oblongata is known as autonomous nervous system. This autonomous nervous system is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system will be forming from the ganglia that are present on the vertebral column. There will be ganglia on either sides of the vertebral column. If your vertebral column is like this, there will be some ganglia. The nerves which are arising from the spinal cord will form as ganglia, and from this ganglia small nerves will arise, and the nerves which are arising from the ganglia of vertebral column or our spinal cord will be forming as sympathetic nervous system. And parasympathetic nervous system will be forming from the ganglia that are coming from the brain. Nerves will be coming from the ganglia of brain. Those will be forming as parasympathetic nervous system. Nerves which are coming from the ganglia of spinal cord will be forming the sympathetic nervous system. Both the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system together constitute autonomous nervous system, which helps your internal organs to function normally. Heartbeat, respiratory system, your kidneys, etc. organs are going to function on their own. If you ask your lungs to stop breathing, it will not stop. If you ask your heart to stop heartbeat, it will not stop. So all these functions which are doing automatically are known as, will be coming under autonomous nervous system. Internally, that will be divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. So this is about the brain and the other things. Now, apart from this brain, spinal cord, autonomous nervous system, we have chemical coordination which will be brought in human beings. Means coordination which is brought through the chemical substances, namely hormones. These chemical substances which are released by glands which are present in our body are termed as hormones, and they will be bringing about a little change, and they will be secreted only in little quantities. Whereas when compared to brain and spinal cord, their action will be immediate and spot. Everything will be spot. Brain, if I am asking my hand to write, it is spot. Everything will be remembered. But hormones, they will be secreted in small quantity. It will be having huge impact, but they will be secreted in very little quantities, and their action is also very slow when compared to brain and spinal cord. Their action, brain and spinal cord action is immediate, but whereas hormones reaction will be slow. Let us study about what is this chemical coordination which will be brought in our body. For this to understand, we have to know about islets of Langerhans. Paul Langerhans in 1868 or so, during that period, he has discovered small islets, that means similar to that of islands. Islets are also called as islands. So small islands or islets like structures in the pancreas, which are not associated with, that means pancreas is known to be a mixed gland. Pancreas is known to be a mixed gland. This pancreas will be releasing pancreatic juice, which will be entering into the digestive system through the pancreatic duct. From the pancreas, pancreatic juice will be released into the digestive system through the pancreatic duct. It is a mixed gland, and some portion of pancreas are consisting of some islets of Langerhans, which are known as islets of Langerhans, and these are releasing a hormone directly into the blood, and he termed that hormone as insulin, which is nowhere related to the digestive system. Islets of Langerhans, which are a part of pancreas, they have started releasing a hormone, namely insulin. It was being observed by Paul Langerhans. So on his name, these whatever the glands that are being invented, they are called as islets of Langerhans. They are present inside the pancreas. So pancreas is known as mixed gland. Pancreas will be acting as both endocrine and exocrine. This is exocrine gland. There is a difference between exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine glands are duct glands. They are associated generally with the digestive system. That means they will be having tubes, starting point and ending point, through the tubes or through the pipes. Liver. will be releasing bile juice. It will be directly connected through bile duct. It will be directly associated with digestive system, right? So these glands which will be passing the juices, digestive juices or whatever it may be into the digestive system through the ducts are called as exocrine glands. Those which do not have ducts, which will be releasing their chemical substances directly into the blood, those are called as endocrine glands. Endocrine glands will release chemical substances, namely hormones, into the blood. The medium of transport for these hormones is blood. But whereas exocrine glands, they will be having ducts, means passage will be there. Through the passages, the amount of juices or whatever it may be will be released, which will be released from the exocrine glands will be directly entering into the, that means they know where to go. But whereas blood will be carrying that hormone to all the parts of the body, but it shows its action wherever it is required. Just like you are taking a crocin or whatever, for example, a dolo, a crocin, or the best example is saridon. The saridon is going to cure a headache. How does it know that it is going to cure its headache? The chemical formula that is present behind the saridon will help us to cure our headache. Similarly, hormones which are released by endocrine glands knows where to act. They go to the place through the blood they are going to be supplied, and they will be acting only in that portion where it is required and which will be having its effect. Similarly, Paul Langerhans has observed these islets of Langerhans in the pancreas, which releases insulin, which will be releasing insulin. And he has conducted several experiments on frogs and other animals where he has removed the pancreas and observed that glucose levels, whenever the pancreas has been removed in a frog or in a mammal, animal, a goat or something, then he clearly observed that blood levels, glucose blood levels have been increased tremendously. That means percentage of glucose in the blood has increased because of non-availability of this pancreas. Then he observed the same thing in other animals which are normally having pancreas. In those animals, the blood glucose levels are very low. That means whatever the level that should be maintained by that animal, those are being maintained. But in the animal whose pancreas has been removed, the blood glucose levels has been increased. Then he came to a conclusion that it is a mixed gland. It consists of whatever the islets he has seen, that is releasing a hormone, namely insulin, which acts on glucose which is present in the blood, and it will be converting this glucose into glycogen, which is storage food material. You might have seen most of the diabetic patients being taking insulin in the form of tablets or in the form of injections, because their body, islets of Langerhans, fails to produce this hormone. In some cases, very little may be produced, or those who are taking tablets, in those persons, little amount of insulin is produced. In those animals where insulin is not at all produced, in those persons they will be taking directly insulin in the form of injection. That was being invented by 3 scientists. The scientists' names are Banting, Best and McLeod, who are there in Toronto. They observed that they have taken out the insulin from a dog and they have injected. That means they have what they have done is they have taken the pancreas and they have observed the same experiment. That is, whenever the pancreas has been removed, in those animals, in the dog, they have observed that glucose level in the blood has been increased. And whenever they have injected, they have extracted injection from the pancreas and they have injected into the same animal where the pancreas has been removed. So that insulin started converting this glucose into glycogen where the blood glucose levels have come down. So this method of extracting the insulin in the form of injection has been invented by these 3 persons, McLeod, Banting and Best. These are the 3 scientists doctors who have been invented in extraction of insulin from animals, and now we are using that insulin from pigs, dogs, that is being extracted and that is being stored in the form of injection, and that will be injected into the person's body where blood glucose level, that is insulin, will not be produced in their body. If insulin is not produced in a person's body, then blood glucose level increases, and that condition is called as diabetes mellitus. They suffer from a disease called as diabetes mellitus. Those patients are called as diabetic patients because insulin is not going to produce. This is a hormone which is released by endocrine gland, namely islets of Langerhans, which is present inside the pancreas. This is the story of insulin, extraction of insulin and everything. So this is one type of hormone which is released by endocrine gland. Endocrine gland. Pancreas is a mixed gland. Both exocrine and endocrine will be present. Pancreatic juice, which will be entering into the digestive system, will be released through the pancreatic duct, which will be coming under exocrine gland. Endocrine gland will be coming islets of Langerhans, which is part of pancreas, will be coming under endocrine gland, which will be releasing insulin, a hormone which will be released directly into the blood, and whatever the glucose level that is present inside the blood will be lowered by insulin. That means it is going to convert glucose into glycogen. This glycogen is the reserve food material inside our body. That means glycogen, you can consider this one to be fat. Conversion of glucose into glycogen by insulin. So in normal persons, this insulin will be making the presence of glucose low in the blood, so that it will be converting the glucose into glycogen. Now there is a mechanism. I think you might be, there are several examples. Cockfight you might be seeing in some movies or some villages in Andhra area. So there, or whenever you see a dog on the roadside, first you will be afraid. If that barks, then you start run away from the place. Okay. So at that point of time, what happens means your brain, your body starts producing a special type of hormones known as adrenaline hormone, which is released by adrenal gland. Adrenal gland is present over the kidney. In the kidneys topic, I told you that over the kidney there is a cap-like structure which is known as adrenal gland. It is nowhere related to the kidney, but it doesn't have any function to related to kidney, that is filtering of blood. But it releases hormone known as adrenaline hormone, which is known as fight and flight hormone. Adrenal gland, which is present over the kidney, releases a hormone known as adrenaline, which will be released into the blood, and it makes you to face that condition. When you are placed in a cold condition, you will shiver, your body starts shivering. Now when you are placed in a hot condition, your body starts sweating, shivering. Or when you see a dog, you run away from the place. Or until your heartbeat, at that point of time your heartbeat increases, your blood pressure increases, everything will increase, and your body will be made to fight with that condition because of the release of adrenaline hormone. And sometimes after few minutes you will calm down. When you see that dog is now no more coming over you, or it is far away from you, then you will come to your normal position. That means your blood pressure comes to your normal position, your heartbeat comes to your normal position, and so that is the reason why it is not. That means flight hormone is called, it is also known as flight hormone because you will be made to face that condition. Cold conditions, hot condition, profuse sweating or shivering, this is known as flight condition. Fighting against the condition. So it will help you to either fight or flight. So adrenaline hormone is known as fight or flight hormone, and it will make you to face the condition which are prevailing outside, which is making your blood pressure and heartbeat to increase, and it will be made to normalize by this hormone, adrenaline hormone. Cocks will be fighting with each other. You might be all seen. In that, adrenaline hormone will be released in high quantities, as a result of which the cocks will fight, and if one of the cock is going to die, then after few minutes the other cock is going to come to its normal position, because its adrenaline hormone will be reduced in that cock. Okay. Now there is a feedback mechanism inside our body where controlling its own system is known as feedback mechanism. That means all the glands that are present inside our body, hormones that are being released by different kinds of endocrine glands, they are going to control their own system. For example, these are the different types of glands and their location as well as their type of amount of the type of hormone that is released, which is going to be controlling its own, that is not under the control of your brain. Either sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, or that is autonomous nervous system, peripheral nervous system and central nervous system will not have any part in releasing these hormones. They will be releasing on their own whenever it is required. Whenever the blood glucose levels are less, then it releases insulin hormone. Okay, so similarly we are going to see what are the different types of hormones that are present in released by different types of glands. The first and foremost gland is known as pituitary gland. It is known as master of endocrine glands. Pituitary gland is known as master of endocrine glands because it controls all the other glands. Most of the glands that are present inside our body will be under the control of pituitary gland. The size of the pituitary gland is pea size. The size of pituitary gland is pea size and it is present underneath the brain, underneath your medulla oblongata. It is present underneath your medulla oblongata, floor of the brain. It is present at the floor of the brain and it is of the size of pea size, pea seed. The size of pituitary gland is pea seed and it releases several types of hormones and it controls all the other glands, endocrine glands that are present inside our body. That is the reason why pituitary gland is namely master of endocrine glands. It is mastering the other glands that are present inside our body. So it is known as master of endocrine glands. Let us see what are the different types of hormones which are released. Somatotropin. It is released by the pituitary gland. It is going to act on the bones and it is going to increase the size of the bones. Thyrotropin. It is going to act on thyroid glands which are present on the body. Here, thyroid glands will be present in the neck region, and these thyroid glands will be under the control of pituitary gland, and it is releasing a hormone known as thyrotropin, which will be acting on thyroid gland whether to release the thyroxine hormone or not. Gonadotropin. They will be acting on gonads, namely testes and ovaries. Testes in males and ovaries. They will be under the control of gonadotropin hormone released by pituitary gland. ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Adrenocorticotropic hormone will be released by pituitary gland and it will be acting on adrenal gland. Now, in the previous example, I told you that whenever you see a dog, if it is barking, then you start run away from the place. That means for that to happen, for the adrenal gland to release the hormone adrenaline, it requires pituitary gland to release adrenocorticotropic hormone. This has to act on adrenal gland, then this adrenal gland has to release the adrenaline hormone. Somatotropin has to be released by pituitary gland in order to act on the bones and it has to increase in size. Likewise, LH, luteinizing hormone, will be released by pituitary gland and it is going to act on testes in males and females separately. In males, secretion of testosterone. Testosterone is a hormone which is released by testes. Testosterone is a hormone released by testes. For the testes to release testosterone, it requires luteinizing hormone which has to be released by pituitary gland. If pituitary gland releases luteinizing hormone, then luteinizing hormone acts on testes of the males and it helps the testes to secrete testosterone hormone. In females, it will be mainly involving in ovulation. That means release of ovum from the ovary and secretion of progesterone hormone. This progesterone hormone is released by ovary in females. Luteinizing hormone will act differently in males and females. In males, it will make the testes to release testosterone hormone. In females, ovulation and progesterone hormone. Progesterone hormone mainly acts during pregnancy period. Progesterone hormone will be released during pregnancy period. FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. It is released in both males and females, and in males it will be spermatogenesis, means production of sperms. Production of sperms will be enabled in males if FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, is released by pituitary gland, and in females it helps in secretion of estrogen, another hormone released by ovary, and it helps in the growth of Graafian follicles. We will study about these Graafian follicles, ovulation, all these topics in the coming reproduction topic. So for instance, you have to remember that pituitary gland will be releasing luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone will act on testes in males to release testosterone, in females to release progesterone hormone and ovulation process. Follicle stimulating hormone will in the males it helps in production of sperms, spermatogenesis, and in females secretion of estrogen, another hormone released by ovary, and growth of Graafian follicles. So since these many hormones are produced by pituitary gland, which is acting on different types of other endocrine glands which are present all over the body, this pituitary gland is known as master of endocrine glands. So it is controlling, just like our brain is controlling our total body, pituitary gland is controlling all the other endocrine glands that are present in our body. So it is known as master of endocrine glands. Now the next second hormone that is present in our body is thyroid gland, which is present near the neck region, and it is going to release thyroxine hormone. Hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism will be there. If less amounts of thyroid, iodine has to be taken into our body for the production of thyroxine hormone. If that levels of thyroxine may increase or decrease depending upon the amount of release of this thyroxine hormone. If it is not going to be released, then it affects the growth of the body. If you are not taking iodine in sufficient quantities required by your body, then lack of iodine will be there in your body, and it results in less amount of production of thyroxine hormone. So body growth will be affected. That means will not be normal, and it will lead to dwarfism and gigantism. These are the two things. Dwarfism means those who will be very short, just like pygmies of Africa, and gigantism, which will be taller. Gigantism means in persons, in some of the persons, thyroxine hormone will be produced in more than the required quantities, as a result of which they will grow taller, just like a eucalyptus plant. Just like eucalyptus plant. If thyroxine is released in less quantities, then it results in dwarfism, pygmies of Africa. So whatever the quantity that is required by our body, that should be released. Excess is also a disease, less quantities is also a disease. Ovary, it will be present in lower abdomen and is going to be releasing estrogen and progesterone, as I told you. Estrogen will be helping in growth of uterus and skeletal form of pelvis. The muscle, small muscle which is present around the pelvis will be formed, and growth of uterus. Growth of uterus, as during the pregnancy period, the uterus has to increase in size. It will be enabled by the release of estrogen. Progesterone hormone will be helpful in development of uterus. Estrogen and progesterone both will be acting on uterus, and they will be helping the baby to grow accordingly by increasing the size of the uterus. Testes, it will be present in scrotal sacs, and they will be releasing a hormone known as testosterone. This testosterone hormone will be released in males, and it will be helping the development of male sexual characters. If testosterone hormone is released in required quantities in the persons, in males, then it helps the males to produce their secondary sexual character, just like beard, mustache, etc. If testosterone hormone is not produced in males, then beard, mustache will not be seen. That is called as a condition. I will tell you later during your reproductive system. Adrenal gland, it is present on the kidneys. I told you, over the kidneys the adrenal gland will be present, just like cap-like structures on both the kidneys, and they are going to release known as adrenaline hormone, which is known as fight and flight, as explained earlier. Pancreas will be releasing, it is present near the duodenum, it will be releasing two hormones, insulin and glucagon. Insulin will be helping will be released when blood glucose levels are high. When blood glucose levels are high, insulin will be released and it helps the glucose to convert into glycogen, reserve food material. And this glucagon is released when blood glucose levels are low. That means when you are starved, when you are not taking any food for 1 or 2 days or 1 half day or full day, then glucagon will be released. So it indicates that your blood glucose levels are low. Then glucagon will be released and it converts glycogen into glucose. Reverse process. Insulin will be released when blood glucose levels are high. It acts on glucose to convert into glycogen, which is known as reserve food material. Excess amounts of food material which you are taking into your body will be stored in the form of glycogen, reserve food material. So when you are starved, that glycogen has to be converted to glucose for the utilization process to produce energy inside your cells. Then glucagon will be released by same, and it will be converting the glycogen into glucose when blood glucose levels are low.